At 38, Nathan Pierce had it all. From his Manhattan penthouse, the city lights seemed to bow to him. His real estate empire spanned continents, his net worth was in the billions, and his name was a staple in business magazines. But inside, he felt an emptiness that no amount of success could ever fill. His phone buzzed. Another deal closed, another million earned. He barely noticed. The numbers had become meaningless 3 years ago, the day he overheard his fiancée, Catherine, joking with her friends. She was planning to divorce him right after their wedding to take half his fortune. From that moment on, trust became a foreign concept. Every woman he met seemed to have dollar signs in her eyes. Every compliment felt like a calculation, every smile a performance. He had resigned himself to a life of wealth and loneliness, convinced that genuine love was a luxury he couldn't afford. Then, on a rainy Tuesday, everything changed. Visiting a construction site in Brooklyn, Nathan witnessed a car crash. He rushed to help, pulling someone from the wreckage and calling for an ambulance. That's when he met Olivia Chen. She was a 29-year-old paramedic, her eyes filled with determination, her hands gentle and sure. While her team tended to the victims, Olivia noticed Nathan had cut his hand on broken glass. She insisted on treating it, despite his protests that he was fine. Her touch was different, professional, yet warm. She spoke to him not as Nathan Pierce, the billionaire, but as Nathan, a person who had just done a brave thing. When he tried to thank her with money, she laughed, a sound like music. "Just doing my job," she said. "What? But you were brave to help." "What?" Not many people would. That simple encounter lingered in his mind for days. He couldn't forget her. He found out which hospital she worked at and arranged to make a large donation, delivering it personally, just for the chance to see her again. He asked her to dinner. Olivia was hesitant. Between her 2 jobs, free time was a rarity. But something in Nathan's earnest expression made her say yes. Their first dinner stretched into 4 hours. Olivia spoke about her disabled mother, her dream of becoming a doctor, and her love for classic literature. She asked about his work, but her questions were about his passion, not his profits. For the first time in years, Nathan felt seen for who he was, not what he had. They started dating, but Nathan built their relationship on a carefully constructed lie of omission. He concealed the true scale of his wealth. He drove a modest car to their dates, chose cozy neighborhood restaurants over Michelin-starred dining, and wore casual clothes. He wanted to be sure. Olivia lived in a small apartment in Queens, working exhausting hospital shifts and spending her free time caring for her mother, who suffered from multiple sclerosis. Her life was a world away from his, yet with her, Nathan felt more at home than he ever had in his penthouse. 6 months flew by. He fell deeply in love with her kindness, her strength, her unwavering optimism. And she loved him back with a purity that both thrilled and terrified him. That old voice of doubt, the one that sounded like Catherine's laughter, began to whisper again. One night, sitting in an exclusive club with his business partner, David, Nathan confessed his fears. He expected reassurance. Instead, David offered a chilling solution. "Test her," he said. "Tell her you lost everything. See if she stays." The idea felt cruel, twisted. "What's more cruel?" "Ow," David countered. "Testing her now, or marrying her, and spending the rest of your life wondering if she's just waiting for the payout? You were burned before, Nathan. Badly. Do you really want to risk that again?" The thought was a poison that seeped into his mind. He watched Olivia, so full of life and love, completely unaware of the fortune he was hiding. He watched her laugh at his jokes, hold his hand, and talk excitedly about a future she believed was simple. The doubt gnawed at him, twisting his love into fear. Finally, he made his decision. He would fake his own financial ruin. Just for a little while, just to be absolutely sure. On a cold October evening, he put his plan into action. He arrived at Olivia's apartment looking like a ghost of his former self, hair a mess. Clothes old and rumpled, his expression practiced in the car mirror. The moment she opened the door, her welcoming smile evaporated. "Nathan, what happened?" He looked terrible. He stumbled inside, his performance so convincing he almost believed it himself. Olivia led him to the couch, her brow furrowed with genuine concern. He took a deep breath. "I lost everything," he said, his voice cracking with rehearsed despair. "The company, a deal went bad. My partner. He made decisions I didn't know about. There was debt, The banks are taking everything, the apartment, the car, all my savings. It's all gone. He held his breath, watching her face. Bracing for the inevitable shift, the panic, the disappointment, the polite retreat. Instead, her eyes filled with tears, but not for the reasons he'd feared. "Oh, Nathan," she whispered, pulling him into a tight embrace. "I'm so sorry this happened to you." He was stunned into silence. He waited for the other shoe to drop, for the awkward excuses to begin, but Olivia just held him tighter. "We'll figure this out," she said, her voice firm with a resolve that shook him to his core. "Together, you're not alone in this. Together." His own voice sounded hollow. "Olivia, I have nothing. I can't even afford to take you to dinner. I might not have a place to live." She pulled back then, looking him straight in the eye. Her gaze was unwavering, filled with something he'd thought was only for fairy tales. "Do you think I care about any of that?" she asked, her tone almost indignant. "Nathan, I love you. Not your job or your apartment or your money. I love you. It's the person who makes me laugh, who listens to me, who treats my mother with such kindness. That person didn't disappear just because some business deal failed." She stood up, her entire posture radiating a strength that humbled him. "You'll stay here," she declared. The couch pulls out into a bed. "It's not much, but it's warm and it's safe. Tomorrow, we figure out the next steps. You can find new work. We'll have to adjust our plans, but we will do it together, because that's what people who love each other do." Nathan sat frozen on her couch, his cruel, elaborate test crumbling around him. He watched, speechless, as Olivia moved around her small apartment, pulling out sheets and blankets. She started talking about meal planning and budget cuts with the same practical energy she brought to a medical emergency. As she made up the sofa bed for him, chatting about how they would make it all work, Nathan felt something inside him shatter. This woman, who had so little herself, was offering him everything she had without a moment's hesitation. He had designed this test to judge her character, but as he sat there, he realized the only person being truly tested was himself. And he was failing spectacularly. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. We'll see you in the next one. Nathan woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of Olivia moving quietly around the tiny kitchen. Sunlight filtered through thin curtains, illuminating the cramped living room that had become his temporary home. His back ached from the pull-out couch, and for a moment he forgot all about his deception. Then reality crashed back, bringing waves of guilt. Olivia appeared in the doorway, already dressed in her nurse scrubs, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. She held out a mug of coffee and a piece of toast with peanut butter. "I have to leave for my shift in 10 minutes, she said softly, "but I made you breakfast. There are eggs in the fridge and some rice from last night. Help yourself to anything." Nathan took the coffee, struck by how different this morning was from his usual routine of ordering from expensive cafes. "Thank you, Olivia. You didn't have to do this." She smiled, but he could see the tiredness around her eyes. "Of course I did. We take care of each other now." After she left, Nathan sat alone in the quiet apartment. He looked around at the worn furniture, the outdated appliances, and the photographs on the walls, showing Olivia and her mother at various stages of life. Every item told a story of someone who had so little but gave so much. His phone buzzed with messages from his friend David, asking for updates on the test. Nathan silenced it, unable to stomach his friend's curiosity about whether Olivia would pass or fail. That afternoon, Nathan met Olivia's mother, Margaret, properly for the first time. The older woman sat in a wheelchair by the window, her hands trembling slightly from her condition. Despite her illness, her eyes sparkled with warmth when Olivia introduced Nathan as someone who would be staying with them. "So you're the young man my daughter talks about constantly," Margaret said with a knowing smile. "She tells me you've hit a rough patch." Nathan felt shame wash over him. "Yes, ma'am. Grateful for your daughter's kindness." Margaret reached out and took his hand with surprising strength. "Life has seasons, Nathan. Sometimes we're up, sometimes we're down. What matters is who stands beside us during the storms." Over the following days, Nathan began to truly understand Olivia's life. She worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital, then came home to care for her mother, prepare meals, and handle household chores. She had been picking up extra shifts at a clinic on weekends to save money for her mother's medical expenses. She worked even more. Nathan discovered she had taken on additional hours to support him as well. When he protested, she simply shook her head. "You would do the same for me," she said with complete confidence. Nathan realized with a sinking heart that he had never actually been tested in that way. His wealth had always been a cushion against real hardship. Nathan tried to make himself useful. He cleaned the apartment, prepared meals from simple ingredients, and helped care for Margaret. The older woman taught him card games and shared stories about Olivia's childhood, painting a picture of a girl who had always put others first. One evening, while Olivia was at work, Margaret looked at Nathan seriously. "My daughter has a beautiful heart," she said. "She sees the best in people, sometimes even when it's not there. I hope you deserve her faith in you." The words hit Nathan like a physical blow. He wanted to confess everything right then, but Margaret continued. "She told me about your situation. I know you must feel embarrassed or ashamed, but there's no shame in struggling. There's only shame in how we treat others during our struggles." Nathan nodded, unable to speak past the lump in his throat. Word spread quickly in Olivia's neighborhood about Nathan's situation. The story she told was simple. Her boyfriend had lost his business and needed support while getting back on his feet. The response humbled Nathan to his core. Mrs. Rodriguez from downstairs brought up a casserole. "My husband lost his job 3 times in our marriage," she said. "We survived because neighbors helped. Now we help others." Mr. Kim from the corner store offered Nathan work stocking shelves. "It's not much, but it's honest work, and it pays cash daily." A local restaurant owner offered him dishwashing shifts. "Everyone needs help sometimes," he said simply. Nathan found himself working these jobs, experiencing physical labor in ways he never had. His hands, used to signing contracts, now loaded boxes and scrubbed pots. His body ached in new ways. His pride took repeated hits. But something unexpected happened. The people he worked alongside treated him with dignity, shared their lunches, taught him shortcuts, and told jokes to make the long shifts pass faster. They did not judge him for his circumstances. They simply accepted him as someone trying his best. 3 weeks into his deception, Nathan sat with Olivia on the small balcony of her apartment. She had just finished a double shift and looked exhausted, but she smiled as she leaned against him. "I have some good news," she said. "I've been saving extra from my shifts. Think by next month, we might have enough for you to take a certification course. Maybe in property management or real estate. Something to help you get back into the field, you know." Nathan felt his heart shatter. She had been working herself to exhaustion, setting aside money that should have gone to her mother's care or her own dreams of medical school, all to help him restart a career he had never actually lost. "Olivia, you can't do that," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You need to save for yourself, for your mother, for medical school." She took his hand. "Medical school can wait. Right now, we need to focus on getting you stable again. Once you're working, I can start saving for school. We have time, but this is your dream." "My dream is to help people," she said simply. "I'm helping you. That makes me happy." Nathan excused himself and went to the bathroom, where he stared at his reflection. The man looking back at him seemed like a stranger. He had come here to test Olivia's love, to see if she would stay when the money disappeared. Instead, she had shown him a kind of love he had never imagined existed. She was not just staying, she was sacrificing. She was giving up her dreams, her savings, her time, and her energy to support someone she believed had nothing. She did it without resentment, without keeping score, without expecting anything in return, and he had lied to make her do it. The next afternoon, while Nathan was walking back from his shift at the restaurant, he ran into someone from his old life. Richard Chen, a business associate, nearly walked past him before doing a double take. "Nathan? Nathan Pierce? Is that you?" Nathan froze, his mind racing. Richard looked him up and down, taking in the cheap clothes and tired appearance with obvious confusion. "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" "I heard rumors about some financial trouble, but I thought they were just market gossip." Before Nathan could respond, Richard continued. "Listen, if you need help, I have connections. A man with your skills and experience shouldn't be struggling. Let me make some calls." "No," Nathan said quickly. "I appreciate it, but I'm managing." Richard frowned. "Managing? Nathan, You were one of the most successful developers in the city. Whatever happened, you can recover. Don't let pride get in the way of accepting help." After Richard left, Nathan stood on the sidewalk, feeling the full weight of his deception. He had created an elaborate lie to test Olivia, but in doing so, he had trapped himself in a web of guilt and shame. Despite the growing weight of his secret, Nathan found unexpected moments of happiness. He and Olivia cooked simple meals together, laughing as they experimented with budget recipes. They walked through the neighborhood on her rare free evenings, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing. Margaret's health had a good week, and the three of them played board games together. Nathan heard stories about Olivia's late father, a construction worker who had died in an accident when Olivia was 15. He learned how Olivia had grown up fast, working part-time jobs while excelling in school, determined to make her parents proud. One night, as they lay together on the pull-out couch after Margaret had gone to sleep, Olivia traced patterns on Nathan's chest. "I know this is not the life you imagined," she whispered. "I know it's hard. But I want you to know that I've never been happier. Having you here, building something real together, it means everything to me." Nathan held her close, feeling tears threatening to fall. "Olivia, I need to tell you something." She looked up at him with trusting eyes. "What is it?" He opened his mouth, the confession ready to pour out, but then he saw the exhaustion in her face, the hope in her eyes, and he lost his courage. "I love you," he said instead. "More than I ever thought I could love anyone." She smiled and kissed him softly. "I love you too. We're going to be okay, Nathan. I promise." As she fell asleep in his arms, Nathan stared at the ceiling, knowing that the test he had designed had backfired spectacularly. He had not discovered whether Olivia would stay when the money was gone. He had discovered that he was not worthy of the love she was giving so freely. The question now was not whether she loved him, it was whether she would forgive him when she learned the truth. Nathan stood outside the free health clinic, a cold November wind biting at his cheeks. Through the glass, he watched Olivia. She moved with a quiet grace, organizing medicine bottles, her focus absolute. It was the same intense care she brought to everything, to everyone. She'd been there since 6 in the morning and wouldn't be home until 8 tonight. Another weekend sacrificed. He felt the crinkle of the envelope in his pocket, her paycheck. Hard-earned money from these extra shifts, money she insisted on setting aside for his certification course. A course he didn't need. The guilt was a physical thing, a crushing weight on his chest that made each breath a struggle. He was a fraud, living a life built on a foundation of lies, and she was the one paying the price. His phone vibrated, shattering the quiet moment. David's name flashed on the screen, again, eager for an update on his sick experiment. Nathan's stomach turned. He declined the call and, with a decisive tap, blocked the number. He couldn't stand it anymore. Couldn't stand his so-called friend as detached curiosity about what had become the single greatest mistake of his life. This wasn't an experiment. This was real. The night before had been rough. Margaret, Olivia's grandmother, had suffered a setback. Her tremors had intensified, and the doctor prescribed a new medication. Medication insurance wouldn't fully cover. Olivia had stayed up until the early hours, her face etched with worry as she scoured the internet for payment plans and assistance programs. Despite her exhaustion, she had refused to call in sick this morning. She just couldn't. He tried to help, offering the meager earnings from his dishwashing job to cover the cost. But Olivia, ever selfless, had shaken her head. "No, Nathan," she'd said, her voice firm but gentle. "You need to save every penny. Your future is what matters." The irony was a bitter, burning acid in his gut. His future? His future was a multi-billion-dollar empire he had walked away from to play this twisted game. Defeated, Nathan turned away from the clinic and headed back to their small apartment. As he climbed the worn stairs, he saw him. A man, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, standing outside their door, knocking. The man turned as Nathan approached, and a jolt of ice shot through Nathan's veins. It was James Morrison, his personal attorney. The one person, besides David, who knew the full, staggering truth of his wealth. "Nathan, thank goodness," James said, relief washing over his features. "Been trying to reach you for days. We have urgent documents that require your signature. The Singapore deal is stalled without your approval, and we are losing millions with every passing hour." Panic seized Nathan. He grabbed James by the arm, his grip tight, practically dragged him away from the door, down the stairs, and out onto the cold street. What are you doing here? How did you find me? He hissed, his voice low and urgent. James looked utterly bewildered. Your assistant tracked your phone. Nathan, what is going on? David mentioned something about you, testing a woman, but I assumed he was joking. Please tell me you haven't actually been living in this building. It's complicated, Nathan bit out, his jaw tight. I need you to leave now, and don't come back. James's professional demeanor hardened. Nathan, you have a board meeting on Tuesday? You have investors waiting on major decisions? Whatever this social experiment you're conducting is, it needs to end. Now, this isn't an experiment anymore, Nathan snapped, his voice cracking with emotion. He took a breath, his shoulders slumping. I made a terrible mistake, James. A terrible, terrible mistake. I need time to fix it. James's expression softened slightly as he studied his client, his friend. Does this woman? Does she know who you really are? Nathan couldn't meet his gaze. He just shook his head. Then you need to tell her, James said, his tone leaving no room for argument. Today, because lies like this, Nathan, they don't stay buried. The longer you wait, the more catastrophic the fallout will be. He thrust a thick folder into Nathan's hands. These documents can't wait. Sign them and send them back with my courier. And Nathan, whatever it is you're trying to prove to yourself, I hope it's worth what you're about to lose. With that, James turned and walked away, leaving Nathan standing alone on the sidewalk, the weight of the folder matched only by the weight in his soul. He wandered to a nearby park and sank onto a cold bench, the unopened folder a damning symbol of the life he'd tried to escape. A group of children laughed as they soared on the swings, their parents watching with easy smiles. Normal people, living normal, honest lives, unburdened by the kind of soul-crushing deception that had become his entire existence. I had built a world with Olivia, a beautiful, fragile world. But it was all a mirage. James was right. I had to tell her the truth. He knew it with a certainty that was both terrifying and absolute. The only question was how. How could he confess a lie of this magnitude without destroying the one real, beautiful thing he had ever found? How'd you tell the person you love that everything they believe about you, about your life together, is a complete and utter fabrication? He didn't have the answer, but he knew he had to find it, and fast. The clock was ticking and time was running out. Thank you so much for joining me for this part of the story. I know it's a heavy one, but stick with me. If you want to find out what happens next, make sure you're subscribed and have those notifications turned on. I'll see you in the next video. You seem tense. Did something happen at work? Olivia, we need to talk. There is something I need to tell you, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you respond. You're scaring me. What is it? When I told you I lost everything, that my business failed and I was broke, I lied. None of that was true. What do you mean I don't understand? I am wealthy, Olivia. Very wealthy. I own a real estate development company worth billions. I have a penthouse in Manhattan, properties around the world, and more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. No, you're joking. This is some kind of sick joke. I wish it was. I lied to you because I was scared. My former fiancée was only with me for my money. When I met you, you seemed so genuine, so different. But I couldn't shake the fear that maybe you were just better at hiding it, so I decided to test you. I pretended to lose everything to see if you would stay. You tested me? You made me believe you were struggling, that you needed help, so you could test me? Yes, and I know how terrible that sounds. Terrible. Nathan, I worked extra shifts for you. I gave up saving for medical school. I asked my neighbors for help. People who have so little themselves. I worried about you constantly. I stayed up nights planning how we would get by, and all of it was a lie. We're testing me like some kind of experiment. Don't touch me. Olivia, please. I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. But what I learned during these weeks, it changed everything. You showed me what real love looks like. You sacrificed so much without hesitation, without keeping score. I fell in love with you all over again, seeing your heart so clearly. You fell in love with me? You don't even know what love is, Nathan. Love is not about tests and deception. Love is about trust. And you trusted me so little that you had to create an elaborate lie to see if I was worthy of you. That's not fair. You don't understand what I went through with Catherine. Not fair? You know what's not fair? My mother is sick. Really sick. Not pretend sick, not testing someone sick, but actually struggling every single day. I work 2 jobs to afford her care. Sacrifice my dreams because I love her, not because I'm trying to prove something. You came into our lives and made us care about you. Made us help you, made us love you, all so you could run your little experiment. Get out. Olivia, please, let me explain more. Explain what? Is that you're rich and I'm poor, so you had to make sure I wasn't a gold digger? That I passed your test, so now we can live happily ever after? Do you hear how insulting that is? I made a mistake. It's a horrible mistake. But my feelings for you are real. Everything between us, the conversations, the laughter, the connection, all of that was real. Built on a foundation of lies. How can I ever trust you again, Nathan? Every word you said, every moment we shared, it's all tainted now. You were playing a role while I was giving you my whole heart. You can trust me because I am telling you the truth now. I'm showing you who I really am. No, you told me, your voice firm, your eyes clear. You're showing me that when you're scared or unsure, you lie. You manipulate. You test people instead of just being honest. What happens next time you doubt me? Will there be another test? Another deception? I had no answer. I just stood there, helpless, watching you, the woman I loved, look at me like I was a complete stranger. Please leave, you said again. I need you to go. That night, I went back to my penthouse. The same place where this whole stupid, elaborate lie began. The city lights from the window used to feel like a symbol of my success. Now, they just felt cold and empty. My phone buzzed with work, but I couldn't bring myself to care. All I could think about was you, about to start another exhausting shift at the hospital, your heart broken because of me. I thought about your mother, Margaret, who had been so kind, now knowing I'd deceived you both. For 3 days I was in a fog. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. I called, but you didn't answer. I sent flowers, but they were sent right back. I wrote letters, pouring out everything, begging you to forgive me. On the 4th day, my lawyer, James, showed up. He'd done some research. It's exactly who she appears to be. Nathan, he told me. A dedicated nurse, a loving daughter. She volunteers at homeless shelters. She even turned down a higher-paying job to serve underserved communities. He looked at me, his expression serious. You tested the wrong person, Nathan, and you lost something money can't buy. The question now is, what are you going to do about it? My first instinct was the grand gesture. I showed up at the hospital with a check for $1 million to cover all of your mother's medical expenses for life. You met me in the lobby, your face like stone. You think this fixes it? You asked, refusing the check. You think money solves everything? I'm just trying to help, I said, my voice desperate. It's not guilt money, I insisted, though a part of me knew it was. It's because I care about you and your mother. Your expression softened for a split second, but you still shook your head. What hurts the most, Nathan, isn't that you lied about your money. It's that you lied about who you were. The man I fell in love with, humble, hardworking, positive, even when struggling, he doesn't exist. He was a character you played. He does exist, I pleaded. I learned those things from you, living simply, being part of a community. It changed me. The person I was pretending to be became who I want to be. But you weren't convinced. It's not your reality, Nathan, you said. Maybe if you'd been honest from the start, we could have bridged that gap, but you chose to lie. You turned to leave, but paused. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it won't be with me. Those words hit me harder than any business deal gone wrong. I spent the next 2 weeks in serious self-reflection. I even started seeing a therapist who helped me understand that my test was never really about you. It was about my own fear, my own inability to believe someone could love me for just me. I realized grand gestures wouldn't work. I had to earn your forgiveness through consistent, genuine action. So I started volunteering at the free clinic where you worked on weekends. I didn't try to talk to you. I just showed up, cleaned equipment, organized supplies, and did whatever was needed. I also kept my dishwashing job at the restaurant. The owner, Miguel, even commented on it. Most people quit this work as soon as they can, he said. You keep showing up. That says something. I also started using my wealth differently. Anonymously funding programs at your hospital and scholarships for medical students from low-income backgrounds. I didn't tell a soul, especially not you. 6 weeks after my confession, you walked into the clinic and saw me mopping the floor. Surprise flickered across your face. What are you doing here? You asked. Volunteering, I said simply. You just nodded and went about your work. For weeks we existed in the same space, keeping our distance. But slowly, Things started to change. It began with small things. You needed help lifting a heavy box. I needed to know where supplies were. The conversations got a little longer each time. One day, you mentioned your mom was having a good week. I just listened, without offering to fix it with money. Another day, I told you about my therapy, how I was working through my trust issues. You listened without judgment. 2 months later, you asked me to meet you at our park. I sat on that bench, watching the winter sunset. I've been thinking a lot, you began. I'm still angry, still hurt, but I'm trying to understand. You were wrong to test me. It was manipulative and cruel. But I also understand you were wounded. That doesn't excuse it, I said quietly. No, it doesn't, you agreed. But it helps me understand. The thing is, I saw something real in you during those weeks. It's the way you helped my mother, the connections you made. That wasn't all fake, was it? None of it was fake, I said, my voice filled with an earnestness I hadn't felt in years. Those were the most real weeks of my life. You smiled sadly, but it was based on a lie. How do I trust you again? I don't know, I admitted. All I can tell you is I'll spend the rest of my life proving that you can. Ouch. I'm trying to become someone worthy of the love you offered me. Finally, you spoke. I need more time. But maybe we can start over, slowly. As friends first, building trust on an honest foundation. Hope bloomed in my chest. I would like that, I said, my voice steady. And no more tests, you said firmly. No more deception. You talked to me. It's how trust works. No more tests, I promised. The weeks that followed were a new beginning. We had coffee as friends. I told you about the pressures of my world. You told me about your worries for your mother and your dreams of medical school. I didn't try to solve your problems. I just listened. We were learning about each other for real this time, without masks. 3 months later, you invited me to dinner. After a simple meal with you and your mother, you took my hand. What you did was wrong, you said, and it broke my heart. But I've also seen you work hard to change. You've been patient, respectful, and honest. That means something. You squeezed my hand. I'm not ready to go back to where we were. But I think I'm ready to move forward to something new, something built on honesty this time. What does that look like? I asked, barely breathing. It looks like us, dating properly, with no secrets. You being the billionaire, me being the overworked nurse. We figure out if those two people can actually build a life together. I felt tears in my eyes. Would like that more than anything. And Nathan, you added, your voice serious. If you ever lie to me again, for any reason, we are done. Do you understand? I understand, I said. No more lies. Ever. The path forward wasn't easy. Old hurts came up. But we worked through it together. I introduced you to my world, and you kept me grounded in yours. 6 months later, I took you back to the restaurant, where I'd washed dishes. I pulled out a small box with a simple silver ring inside. I'm not asking you to marry me today, I said quickly, but I'm asking if you'll let me spend the rest of my life earning the right to ask. I love you, the real you. I want to build a life with you based on truth. You looked at me, and a real beautiful smile spread across your face. I say yes, you answered. Yes to building something real. Yes to whatever comes next, as long as we face it together, truthfully. The billionaire tested his fiancée by acting broke, and the truth that came out was unbelievable. It's not because she failed, but because the test itself was the failure. I learned that real love isn't something you test. It's something you trust, you nurture, and you earn every single day. And in learning that, I found something far more valuable than all my billions. I found you. Thanks for watching.